Every single day, you are just, well, flooded with information. News, social media, commentary. It's constant.
Absolutely relentless.
But here's the question that kind of sits underneath it all. How do you actually know what to believe? Is it possible that the very places we trust to, inform us could actually be limiting our understanding? Or maybe even twisting it?
It's a really fundamental question.
Yeah, and this goes way beyond just spotting fake news.
Yeah.
It's about how information itself shapes your reality and what that means for us all.
Indeed.
Today, you're actually experiencing something a bit different. A unique two-host AI conversation. We're powered by Google's NotebookLM, which lets us do deeper, more dynamic book analysis.
And we're diving into Marker Levin's 2019 book, Unfreedom of the Press. It definitely stirred up a lot of debate.
It really did. And this isn't just going to be a quick review. We're aiming for a proper exploration of his argument, which is pretty significant, about where the media stands today.
So our mission for you listening in is to really unpack Levin's main idea. We want to look at the history he presents, the evidence he uses.
Right, and think about what it all means for how you navigate this, well, incredibly complex world of information.
And we'll definitely touch on how the book was received, the good and the bad, to give you that full picture.
Okay, so let's get right into it. Levin's core argument. It immediately challenges something most people probably assume about press freedom.
It really does.
He claims the American press isn't struggling mainly because of, say, government pressure. Instead, he says it's suffering from an internal decay, like a breakdown of its own standards.
What does he actually mean by internal decay there?
That's the key question, isn't it?
Well, what's really interesting is how he defines it. Levin basically asserts that the modern media has walked away from its job as an objective reporter of facts.
Abandoned it.
He calls it a party press. That's his term for arguing it's overwhelmingly lined up with the Democratic Party and a progressive ideology.
So not just biased, but actively aligned.
Precisely. His stated goal in the book is to trace how this happened, how the media went from being, a supposed guardian of liberty to what he sees as pushing a partisan agenda.
And he specifically mentions this hostile stance towards America's founding principles.
Yes, that's a major thread. For Levin, the real danger isn't censorship from the outside. It's more like a self-inflicted wound. The press itself, he argues, is now more about influencing than informing.
Wow. Okay. That's a heavy charge. And it makes you ask, well, how did we get to this point, according to him?
Right.
He doesn't just complain about today. He takes us back through history to make his case, contrasting the past with the present.
Yeah, he talks about the early days, the Patriot Press.
The Patriot Press.
Yeah.
What was that exactly? He says they proudly worked to promote the Declaration and the Constitution.
Exactly. Levin paints this picture of early newspapers being almost like extensions of the revolutionary movement, openly pushing for independence and the new republic. The alignment was clear. It was transparent.
No hiding the ball there.
Not at all. And then he says this evolved into what he calls the party press era. Again, newspapers were openly tied to specific political parties. You knew whose side they were on.
So if bias was out in the open back then.
Right. That's Levin's question. How did we get to today's situation where he criticizes hidden bias?
Okay.
He argues the big change came with the progressive era, early 20th century. That's when this ideal of an objective professional press really took hold.
The notion of the neutral reporter.
Exactly. The media started presenting itself as this impartial observer above the political fighting.
But Levin argues that this ideal, this appearance of impartiality, is now just a mask.
Pretty much.
He claims today's newsrooms are filled with journalists who aren't objective at all, but are actually hostile to traditional American institutions and values.
Which is a total flip from his Patriot Press idea.
Completely.
And if you connect that to his bigger argument, he says these journalists, despite claiming objectivity, function as powerful societal filters.
Societal filters, meaning?
Meaning they essentially curate the news. They enforce a kind of uniformity of thought that fits a progressive viewpoint, promoting stories that match that narrative.
And ignoring or downplaying ones that don't.
Exactly. In his view, it's not just random bias, it's almost a systemic effort to shape how people think.
And that's what he means by the destruction of press freedom from the inside. The very tools meant to inform are actually distorting.
That's the core of it, yes. The mechanism itself is compromised, according to Levin.
Okay, so to back this up, he must use examples, right? He points to history, like President Wilson and the Espionage Act, during World War I.
It does.
Why focus on that?
Yeah.
That was government action limiting the press.
Well, Levin uses it as a kind of cautionary tale. Yes, it was government action, but he seems to suggest it shows how fragile press freedom can be, and maybe hints at a pattern where the press sometimes goes along with or doesn't sufficiently fight agendas that curtail freedom.
Interesting angle.
He also goes after specific outlets pretty hard. The New York Times, for instance.
That's his criticism there.
He accuses them of major historical blind spots, like allegedly ignoring or even covering up parts of the Holocaust.
Wow.
And he brings up the infamous Walter Duranty, their Pulitzer winner, who denied Stalin's genocide in Ukraine.
Right, the famine denial.
Right.
Horrific.
Levin argues these aren't just isolated mistakes. He sees them as, like, precursors to the media's current untrustworthiness. Historical failures that foreshadow today's problem.
So he's drawing a line, a pattern of behavior.
That seems to be the idea, that this partisan activism, this groupthink, this propaganda as news, as he calls it, has just wrecked public trust over time.
He also talks about pseudo-events, a term from historian Daniel Boorstin. That sounds relevant today.
Oh, very much so. Pseudo-events, as Levin uses the concept, are basically manufactured incidents.
Manufactured how?
They don't just happen spontaneously. They're created specifically to be reported on. Think press conferences, photo ops, stage protests, things designed to grab headlines.
Oh, okay. Events that exist because of the media.
Precisely. They let reporters fill airtime or column inches, sometimes with what Boorstin called dark intimation, hinting at controversy without hard facts.
And the 24-hour news cycle feeds this.
Levin argues it absolutely fuels it. There's constant pressure to have something new, which incentivizes creating these pseudo-events. It blurs the line between real news and, well, performance.
And for a modern example, he points straight at the coverage of the Trump administration.
Yes, he characterizes the media's coverage as overwhelmingly negative, almost like warfare.
But he also notes that the Trump administration itself didn't actually pass laws restricting the First Amendment.
Right, and for Levin, that proves his point. He argues the media's fight against Trump wasn't about protecting press freedom from the government,
but about their own ideological opposition to him.
Exactly. It fits his narrative of internal decay of the press acting as a political combatant.
Okay, this is a lot to process.
Yeah.
The historical sweep, the specific critiques.
It definitely is. And as we keep digging into these arguments, it really underscores how vital critical thinking is, understanding the different forces shaping the information we get.
Absolutely.
And speaking of deeper analysis, we just wanted to quickly mention, for more stuff like this, analyses aimed at sparking reflection and clear thinking, you can check out our Mindful Moments series over on our YouTube channel. It's specifically for AI book analysis like this one.
Good point. Okay, so back to Levin. Let's try to pull together the main themes here. What's the absolute core message for you, the listener?
Well, the biggest one, as we've been saying, is this idea of press freedom being destroyed from within.
Right. The threat isn't external censorship, primarily. It's the media abandoning its own principles, integrity, objectivity, fairness, a self-inflicted wound, basically.
That's it. And it's important to get the nuance here. Levin says he's not necessarily against bias itself.
Oh, how so?
He points back to the party press era, saying bias used to be open and expected. His main problem is with the modern media pretending it doesn't have a bias.
While actually pushing a clear political agenda. The hypocrisy, essentially.
Exactly. He argues the press isn't mainly informing anymore. It's filtering information to construct a particular reality, one that aligns with progressive views. It elevates stories that fit and suppresses ones that don't.
And he sees that as more dangerous than open bias.
Far more insidious, in his view, yeah.
And another big theme is this claim that modern journalists are actually hostile to the Declaration and the Constitution.
Yes, he suggests they see these foundational documents as like roadblocks to achieving their progressive goals.
Which is a really stark accusation.
It is, and it takes his critique beyond just politics. At its heart, this book is a deep commentary on the media's role in a republic.
He believes a free press is essential for democracy.
Absolutely essential. But he argues today's media has failed in that role. By becoming activists instead of reporters, they've broken public trust and are actually damaging civil society and republicanism, the whole system of representative government.
And he ends with a pretty grim warning, doesn't he?
He really does. He warns that if the press stays on this path being sensational, irresponsible, inflammatory, it risks collapsing in a universal catastrophe, taking down the very freedom it claims to protect.
A very stark warning indeed.
Definitely. It's a call to fundamentally rethink the media's role.
Now, obviously, a book making claims like this landed in a very polarized environment back in 2019.
Oh, absolutely.
And the reception reflected that. It was a huge commercial success, right? #1 bestseller.
Yep, hit #1 on the New York Times list. And it got rave reviews from conservative circles.
Yeah.
Breitbart called it Levin's finest work, for example.
So clearly it resonated strongly with a certain audience who felt these criticisms needed to be voiced.
No doubt about it. But on the flip side, it got heavy criticism from other places.
Such as?
Well, NPR described it as full of bombast and bile. They specifically pointed out, and this is a common critique of this kind of book, that it didn't contain original research or new interviews.
Relying on existing sources and interpretation.
Right. And other critics basically said, Levin's own writing in the book is just as unobjective and ideological as the media he's attacking.
Ah, the classic, you're doing the same thing you criticize argument.
Exactly. Which really just highlights how difficult it is to even talk about media bias without being accused of it yourself. It kind of proves the polarization in a way.
It really does become a sort of meta problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so wrapping this up, Unfreedom of the Press clearly offers a very strong, definitely controversial argument. It forces you to think hard about the news you consume and the role the press plays.
Or should play.
Right. It's really a reminder, isn't it, to engage with information actively, not just absorb it, but question its source, its perspective, its possible agenda.
Absolutely critical. And as we mentioned, for more deep dives like this, analyses that really aim to make you think, do check out our Mindful Moments series on our YouTube channel.
And explore our other audio explorations from our podcast, too.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. If the real purpose of a free press is holding power accountable, what happens when a large chunk of the public starts seeing the press itself as a powerful partisan force?
How does that change things?
How does that perception shift your responsibility as someone trying to make sense of it all?
That's a heavy question to ponder. It definitely puts the onus back on the individual, doesn't it?
It certainly suggests that.
Click the link on screen for the in-depth book analysis.
Subscribe, share, purchase via link, and most importantly, think critically.